Has the Dacia Duster gotten too expensive, or does it still offer value for money in this new latest model? In this video, I'll help you figure out the answer to that. Welcome to Nobby on Cars. Four is a good number when you look at this car because you can get it in a 4x4 and there's 4 different trims. There's a lot more than 4 different price points though. The variations go from almost €26,000 to almost €35,000. And some ways you could look at that and say, well, it's great, it offers so many different options for people. And that is true. For the first time, you can get it in a hybrid. You can also get it with LPG, only in the entry-level trim. And more than ever, it will do all the rugged family things you want this car to do. The question does remain, though, at the higher spec hybrid version of the car at almost 35 grand. Is it just too expensive now? On the front of it, you've got the revised Dacia logo, these split Y-style lights. This colour is called sandstone. The khaki green looks quite nice as well. There's the Starkle recycled plastic bits. It also has a 31-degree approach angle over 230mm ground clearance. A thing that you can actually use to essentially plough fields with. And looking at the arches of this car, someone has clearly tried to do that before. I took it for the week. The Duster is 4.34 meters long, or just slightly over that. It'll take a roof load of 80 kilos if you want to use these included roof rails. And the towing capacity on the hybrid version is the lowest, so that's worth bearing in mind. This is the hybrid version. So it's 750 kilos on the hybrid version, 1500 on both the TC 130 and the TC 4x4, and it's 1200 kilos on the Eco G, which is the LPG version of the car. And there's not that many LPG stations in Ireland, but essentially you can fuel the thing for half the price. And it has dual tanks and you don't need to press any buttons, it just works. Although I've never seen an LPG station in Ireland in my life. 517 litres on the boot, which is, it's a weird sound. Like, okay, so it sounds Dacia-like, but you barely, it's so light to lift it up. And it kind of just vibrates as you do that. So 517 litres in the back. You can also get a sleep pack, which is very handy, so you can actually sleep in this thing, get blackout blinds, get a retractable breakfast storage area. You can drop the floor, you can load in the rear seats, and there's no kind of gap or lip between the front area or the rear of the seats and then the boot area. You can get tow bars, you can get so many different additional packs that make this car very utility-like. Width of the boot is almost 100 centimeters, with the back of the rear seats towards the lip being 87. There's all these U-clip attachment points. You can put so many different things onto them. There's some on the boot as well. They're great for attaching cup holders, torches, phone holders. On the phone holder, it's in the front of this vehicle and it's so handy. But there is a bit of a temptation that comes with it, and you get a wiper. There's also a protection pack which gives you more boot liners and things like that. Indeed, the washable, wipeable mats in this car have contours on them that are meant to be from a map, which I suppose suggests that you can explore in the Duster. I think the housing for the windows and the tops of the doors go quite high. So kids maybe have been slightly forgotten about, and certainly with the door handles in the rear, my 6.5-year-old couldn't really reach them this morning, especially on a cold morning, so they were slippy to grab. More Y-clip, is it U-clip or Y-clip? I'm getting confused between political parties in the UK. Anyway, you can hook things on, you can attach them, and there's so many different. Have a look at the Dacia website because you'll see how many different things you can attach, and it is quite clever in fairness. 2 USB-C charging ports down here. Bench, pretty supportive. Seats are fairly comfortable as well, and decent-ish head height overall. Maybe people over 6 foot might be hitting their heads off that, depending. But you do have grab handles, and welcome to USB-C chargers in the back of a Dacia. Lots of physical buttons inside this car, if that is your thing, because some people just are allergic to just using screens. This brilliant phone holder, very useful, goes into landscape mode as well. Bit of a temptation when you're driving because it's right in front of you, but handy if you were using things like maps, but I don't know why you would, because you have your wireless Android Auto and CarPlay, a couple of drinks holders, you get an armrest, seats are comfortable, driver's display tells you what power source you're using, whether that's the small battery that just gets topped up with the petrol engine and then the petrol engine goes asleep, or whether you're using full-on fuel. Wireless charging down here, a fairly useless shelf because everything slides out of it when you drive. Automatic box in this hybrid version. In the four-wheel drive you get a jog wheel to control your different modes like mud and snow. You could argue some of the plastics in here are a bit low rent, but they're going to survive, they're going to last the test of time. They're durable. Again, all the mats in here are wipeable. Cruise control buttons, genuinely a decent enough functional place to be sitting, but again, this is the highest spec version. The only thing that's kind of missing in here is a sunroof. You'll have to wait for the Bigster for that, because that will be the first Dacia car ever to have a glass roof. Imagine that. Quite a combination of power outputs as well. 100 brake horsepower, 130 and 140 in this hybrid. They're all 3-cylinder apart from the hybrid, which is a 4, and you've got a 6-speed gearbox, although this is a 4 plus 2. For the power, you probably want the 130 or the 140 brake version, I think. Whether you're carrying people or using it off-road, I just think you'll want a little bit more under your foot. The hybrid, sometimes it's not sure what gear it needs to be in. Sometimes it's not sure, should I be in petrol and shouting at you, or should I relax and go back into EV mode? Overall, it's fine. It's certainly doing 85 out of 100 easily for eco score. There are definitely more efficient hybrids on the market, something from Toyota, possibly MG as well, which might be another car you're considering, is slightly easier on fuel from what I've seen anyway. Body roll's been reduced compared to the last version. It's a decent enough blend of comfort versus stiffness, so it's a little bit flatter through corners, which should make it a little bit better to drive. My leg is kind of resting against something very, very hard down here. Worth maybe sticking something on that if you're driving this thing all day. C-pillar is a little bit restrictive when you're trying to see out of blind corners and things like that. Now, the camera has lots of different angles on it, which is very good. Some looking forward on the car, so that would help you, but it's still a very restrictive view over there. Question is, will you be just as fine in the 130 brake without the hybrid? That still has a bit of mild hybrid, and you'll save quite a few quid going down that route. Just don't know will you save enough by spending the extra on this 140 brake version. I will say over the windscreen and the A-pillars, there's quite a bit of wind noise, even at sort of 60, 70 kilometers an hour. It's quite noticeable because there's probably less insulation on this car to, again, keep the price of it down. Time for my final conclusions with this newest version of this massive selling brand and model, and a model that people really, really love. People go time and time again into their next Duster. Let me know if you're one of those people down in the comments below, because there's a bit of a cult following. It's almost a case of, if you know, you know. I know lots of you will probably say it's a pity that you can't get it in diesel anymore. Looking at the way I've been driving this with the hybrid, you're still going to get maybe 800 kilometers out of a tank of juice, and it's sort of 5.9 to 6.4 litres per 100 kilometers. So not quite diesel fuel economy perhaps, but let me know what you think. Is it enough to replace your older diesel Dacia? NCAP, something people always talk about in these cars. So it has a 3-star NCAP. Actually, child protection was well above 80%. Driver and older adults protection was a little bit less. And the reason for that was because of how much Dacia could demonstrate you would or wouldn't move inside the car from one side to the next if you were hit from the side. That said, it survived very well in the side pole impact test. Have a look at the NCAP report if you like. There's more ADAS systems in Dacias than ever before, so they do get fairly crucified sometimes for the NCAP stuff, but at the same time, do you want to still be able to get one of these relatively affordable, or do you want it full of safety packs? That's the dilemma, I suppose. While in this trim anyway, it's not as no frills as it once was. It's still A good, honest little car that deserves your attention. The only thing that springs to mind is when Skoda were also once the affordable brand in the VW group. That was all well and good, and then they got fancier and far more expensive. And with the Bigster coming down the tracks and this highest spec and this car being 35, I wonder will we see 40 grand for that car? It hasn't been announced yet. And I think Dacia are a little bit in danger now of not being the really affordable car they once were. It is going a while back, but there was a time in Ireland when you could buy a new one of these for 12 grand. And that's not the case anymore. Let me know what you think in the comments, as always, down below. Thank you for your support. You might consider subscribing to the channel, liking and sharing the video. And thank you for coming with me this far. See you in the next one.